Like this little things. But when we grow more peace,
Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Mama Linda.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone who have managed to join. Colleagues, we humbly request that we give others the last 2 minutes that are remaining, exactly at 9:30. We would then be starting with the webinar scheduled for today. Thank you, colleagues.
Noted, thanks.
Welcome. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think the time is 9:30. We can now then start. We can now commence with the webinar that has been scheduled for today. Let us then extend our greetings to all the SSPs that managed to join, that managed to connect today. Let us also acknowledge members of professional boards, members of council that were able to join as well for today's webinar. We will also extend our greetings to employers of SSPs that were able to join. We will also extend our greetings to trade union reps, members of associations for SSPs, and also members from higher institutions or institutions of higher learning that have been able to join the webinar. Without any further delay of time, we will give to Ms. Mbuzo to confirm our attendance so that then we can move with our webinar as per the schedule for today. Thank you. Ms. Mbuzo.
Thank you, Program Director. As you've just mentioned,
I can confirm that members of the professional boards for social work and professional board for child and youth care work are in attendance. And there are social service professionals as well who have attended, who are outside of our office. And I kindly request that everyone who is logged in to write on the chat their full names, surnames, and registration numbers, so that the office can prepare certificates of attendance. If you can kindly write your full names, surnames together with your registration numbers and also your email addresses, where we'll be able to send those certificates. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Mrs. Mbozo. Can I also extend my greetings to staff at SACSSP officers, for colleagues that have joined us. Colleagues, you are welcome in this webinar. I think we need to utilize this platform and try and almost like the whole staff. Let us try and join in numbers so that then we can be well informed about the fees that are payable. Colleagues, SSPs, let us then now welcome the acting registrar, who is going to explain the purpose of this webinar for today. He is going to provide some direction why we are gathered today, so that then we can extend our knowledge on the matter at hand, being the regulation on fees payable by social service professionals. Thank you, and over to you, acting registrar.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, colleagues, members of the Professional Board for Social Work and members of the Professional Board for Child and Youth Care Work, and also council members in attendance and the staff. I greet you all. The purpose of this webinar is, I'm going to be brief, Program Director. The purpose of the webinars is to educate the sector on the regulations on fees payable by social service professionals. We are new regulations that have been published on the 2nd of June 2023. And amongst others, these regulations, they make material changes, or there are material changes in terms of the due date for the payment of the annual fee. But our records and history has taught us that it appears that despite the new amendments, in general, there's lack of knowledge among social service professionals and employers of social service professionals, knowledge as far as the regulations on fees payable by social service professionals is concerned. So part of this webinars is to try to close that particular gap, because administratively it creates a challenge for us, but also we've experienced a huge number of social service professionals who are not paying annual fees, or those who pay, they pay late, and others who pay, they are using wrong reference numbers, which creates a problem for us to be able to account and allocate those monies that we receive accordingly. And the part of this workshop will focus on the different types of fees that are payable to council, which includes registration, re-registration, status report, restoration, and so forth. Because if we do not address this particular challenge, we are going to run into a trouble, Program Director, leading to the 2024-2025 financial year. So the sooner we start mobilizing the sector and sensitizing the sector on these regulations, the sooner the better, so that we are able to meet our sector halfway. Now, we've decided that we're going to run these webinars per province, so that we ensure maximum participation by provinces and give at least everyone an opportunity to raise their concern, because we also want to hear feedback from the sector in terms of how they experience our services and where can we improve as far as our services are concerned. in particular in relation to the payment of annual fees, the issuing of practice cards and so forth, and other general services that we provide to our registrants in the main. So that is part of the main purpose of this particular webinars. Now, Program Director, the Eastern Cape is one of the largest employers of social service professionals, both in the public sector and in the NPO sector. So I see probably others are still going to join, but in the event it happens that they do not join, I think in terms of the attendance so far, majority of the people or all of us who are in attendance now, surely in one way or the other, we will benefit from this particular presentation or webinar today. But it's a lesson that we need to take so that we take stock of the program for today and we go back and strategize in terms of how we can improve the attendance. It's just my assumption, probably others will still join. So thanks very much, Program Director. That is the purpose of today's webinar. Thanks very much.
Colleagues, I hope we've all heard the purpose why we've gathered here today is to assist or more to improve on our knowledge and learnings on the regulations on fees payable by social service professionals here today. We also want to believe that acting registrar or more to improve on our knowledge and learnings on the regulations on fees payable by social service professionals here today. We also want to believe that acting registrar or more to improve on our knowledge and learnings on the regulations on fees payable by needs to be paid by them. So with that said, we would be moving, colleagues. If we've got SSPs that have joined us outside the office, a humble request that was requested was for colleagues to utilize the chat box in putting their details more detailed. Yeah, that's English, right? Putting their details in a more detailed way, the name, the surname, the council number for, I want to believe that I heard that Ms. Muzo said is for the certificate of attendance in this webinar for today. So let us move then Eastern Cape. We are in Eastern Cape today. Online, we are in Eastern Cape. So let us then move to item number 5 of our program, whereby it's talking to presentation on the regulations relating to fees payable by the sector, by the social service professions, the role of the SSPs, and the role of employers. I want to believe and hope that employers have also managed to join us so that then we can be clarified on all our respective roles within the sphere of the SSPs. Let us then move and give to the acting registrar, who is going to do the presentation on the item on the program for our further knowledge. Over to you, acting registrar.
Thanks, Program Director. Allow me to share the presentation. Thank you. Program Director, can you see the presentation? Program Director, are we able to see the presentation? Program Director, you are on mute.
Yes, apologies, acting registrar. Yes, I can see the presentation.
All right, thanks. Then my assumption is that all the attendees are able to see the presentation. The presentation is on webinars. or regulations on fees payable by social service professionals. Now, firstly, who is the SACSSP? We always get a question, colleagues who are registered or even the sector asking us about who is the SACSSP. We are a statutory body established in terms of Section 2 of the Social Service Professions Act. And your act is divided into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 deals with the establishment of the SACSSP as a statutory body, and it starts on Section 1 to Section 14. Chapter 2 deals with the registrations of social service professionals, and it starts on Section 15 to Section 20. Section 3 deals with the disciplinary powers of the Council, and it starts from Section 21 to Section 23. And lastly, Chapter 4 on general provisions of the Act, we start on Section 24 up to Section 30. So when we are doing the presentation, we are going to make reference to some of the relevant sections of the Social Service Professions Act.
And you work for free,
this particular
whatever,
slide,
whenever,
so that
however long you
see
need me to, I
where
got you.
do
I'll
those
apply to any
provisions
store
we
you
are
need me to
referring
apply to, so I could be a
emanating
plug.
from.
Like, I don't care if I get caught by the cops or anything. Like, I will get that money back for you, like, dead ass. I used to
Now,
do
the
that work
structure
two
of
years
the
ago.
South African
Yo,
Council
damn,
for
please, bro,
Social
send the
Service
200K.
Professions,
Like,
we
they're
are
gonna kill
having
me
council
if you
at the
don't. Like, I'll
top,
pay you back.
and
Just let
on
me
the
know what you need.
extreme
I got you.
left, we are
For real.
having the two
And you work for
professional
free,
board for social work
whatever,
and the
whenever, however
professional
long you
board
need me
for
to,
child
I
and youth
got
care
you. I'll apply
workers.
to any store you
We
need me to
also have
apply to,
Section 9
so I could be
committee,
a
which is
plug. Like, I
ESCOM,
don't care if I get caught by the cops or
Section
anything.
10
Like,
committees,
I will
which are
get that money
governance
back for you, like, dead
structures,
ass.
and also
I
statutory
used to work,
committees, which
I used to
include
do that work
registrations
two years ago.
committees, committee of
Yo,
preliminary
damn, please, bro,
inquiry,
send the 200K.
and
Like, they're
on
gonna
the
kill me
extreme
if you don't.
right
Like, I'll
is
pay you
the
back. Just let me
registrar
know
and
what you
the
need. I got you,
administration, whom
for
we
real.
are called
And you work for free,
secretariat.
whatever, whenever,
So we
however
are
long you
running
need me to, I got
the
you. I'll apply to any
administration of
store you need
council
me
on
to
a
apply to,
day-to-day
so I could be a
basis.
plug. Like, I don't care if I get
Council
caught by
and
the
the
cops or
two
anything. Like, I
professional
will get
boards,
that money
they
back for you, like,
oversee
dead
the
ass.
work of council
I used to work,
and of
I
the
used to do that
professional
work
board,
two
and they
years
set
ago.
the standard
Yo,
in
damn,
relation
please,
to
bro,
the
send the
relevant
200K.
provisions of
Like, they're
the
gonna kill
Act.
me if you don't. Like, I'll pay you back.
Here are
Just let me
some
know what
of
you need.
the Section 10 committees, which are governance committees. I'm not going to go through them, all of them. Program director, I think the colleagues, as I'm presenting, they can be able to see at this point in time. Now, the mandate of council, as provided for in Section 3 of the Social Service Professions Act, is to protect and promote the interest of the professions in respect of which professional boards have been established or are to be established, to maintain and enhance the prestige, status, integrity, and dignity of the professions, advise the minister in relation to matters affecting the professions, determine on the recommendation of the professional board the qualification for registrations of person practicing professions, regulate the practicing of the professions, the registration of SSPs and of person practicing the profession. So that is why we are having what we call the regulations regarding the registrations of social workers, student social workers, social auxiliary workers, and also the regulations relating to the registrations of child and youth care workers. They are informed by this particular provision. Determine the standards of professional conduct. That is why we are having what we call the Code of Ethics for social workers and social auxiliary workers, and also the Code of Ethics for child and youth care workers, to control and exercise authority with regard to all financial matters relating to the council and the professional boards. Now, to read more on the powers and functions of council, please refer to Section 4 of the Act. And in terms of Section 5, subsection 5 makes provision for the term of office of council and members, which is a period of 5 years. Now, currently, we are sitting at the 5th council, the 5th professional board for social work, and the 4th professional board for child and youth care workers. So their term of office started in August 2022. The professional boards are established in terms of Section 14, capital letter A, and their objects as provided for in Section 14, capital letter B include, amongst others, to control and exercise authority in respect of training and practice of professions within its ambit, to determine the minimum standard for education and training of the profession within its ambit, maintain and enhance the dignity and integrity of the professions falling within its ambit, and guide the professions falling within its ambit to protect the public. So part of the mandate of the professional board is to protect members of the public, in particular the beneficiaries of social services. Now, to read more on the general powers of the professional boards, please refer to Section 14, capital letter C. Why professional registration? This is one of the questions that the sector do ask, in particular social service professionals who are registered with us. So we're putting this slide to address that particular issue and hope that our social service professionals will understand and appreciate the obligation that comes with the registrations as a social service professionals. You need to register with the SACSSP or SACSSP. You need to register with us because it is a legal requirement. Section 15 of the Act prohibits any person who is not registered under the Act to practice the professions in respect of which professional boards have been established. So you cannot regard yourself, no person should regard him or herself as a social worker, a child and youth care worker, or a social auxiliary worker if that person is not registered with us. It is a license to practice, and there are various laws which empower or recognize social service professionals to execute certain statutory tasks. For example, if you go to the provisions of the Children's Act, it clearly indicates who can provide certain statutory functions, including the removal of children who are in need of care and protection. It is clear to say social workers can only remove, or a social worker can remove a child in need of care and protection. So that statutory power is limited to social workers. Now, if you also go to the scope of practice for social workers, the scope of practice for social auxiliary workers, the scope of practice for child and youth care workers, it clearly indicates as to the nature of the practices or the services that we may render or the work that we do as professionals. By registering with us, it's a proof that one meets the minimum requirements for registrations and that you are competent to practice. We need people to register because we must protect the public against unethical conduct. So we can only hold accountable
the same question that I
those who
time
are
to go
in terms of Section 21 of the Social Services Professions Act. A person who is not registered, unfortunately, we do not have jurisdiction over them. Hence, the provision of Section 15 and Section 16 that in the event we found a person regarding him or herself as a social worker, whilst not, we invoke the provision, or we should invoke the provision of Section 15 and Section 16 of the Social Service Professions Act, and open a criminal case or advise clients to open a criminal case against those persons who are unscrupulous, if I were to put it that way. You can use your registration status to market yourself or your business. You can also use your registration status for international recognition. By registering or regulating the registrations of these professions, it gives professional credibility and credence to our professions. And if you are registered, you will be recognized and be respected in a multidisciplinary teams. Those who are participating in the multidisciplinary teams, in particular in the child and youth care centers. So those, when you're doing the multidisciplinary teams meetings, when you introduce yourself that you are a social worker or a child and youth care worker or a social auxiliary worker, we expect that particular meeting or team to respect you, and they will respect you However, I always emphasize the point that people respect you until such time that they can see how you conduct, until such time they see a different type of a kind of a person in you in terms of how you conduct yourself in the meetings. So if you come into the meeting late, you are disorganized in the meeting, there's no notebook, you don't have a writing pad or so, there's no way you are taking notes or you are not paying attention into the meeting, then people start to wonder as to what kind of a professional is this person. But however, we always encourage our social service professionals to, at all material times, conduct themselves in a professional manner. Now, the regulations of the professions and social service professionals. Where do we get the powers and the authority as the SACSSP to regulate these three professions? We do that in terms of section 27, which talks to council making the rules. We also have section 28, which gives the powers to the minister on the recommendation of council to make regulations relating to the fees which shall be paid annually by SSPs and the fees which shall be paid to the council in respect of re-registration. So subsection or paragraph A makes provision for the minister to make regulations in terms of the annual fees which are payable or supposed to be paid to council. Then subparagraph 1 makes provision for us to, or through the minister, to make regulations in terms of registrations or re-registrations of social service professionals and of additional qualification, specialties, and private practice. So we do have the authority to regulate this particular area of specialties and private practice, and in case people who wants to register additional qualifications. So it's one of the areas that the professional board should note that we need to take forward. We also have the powers to make a restoration on qualification, specialty, practice, and name of such a person on the register. So this is a regulation relating to the registration and restoration, which are part of the regulations regarding the registrations of SSPs. To make any regulations in relation to any application which shall or may be made under this Act, to issue the issue of registration certificate or copies thereof, the provisions of extract from any register. So we have the authority to regulate this area, and any other act which shall or may be performed by the council or by the registrar under this Act. The allowances which may be paid to members of the council and of committees in respect of the carrying out of their functions. So members of council and of the professional boards, they do qualify to be remunerated for the work that they do as members in their capacity as members of the council and of the professional board, and there are regulations relating to allowances payable to members. Now it goes further to say the minimum requirements. So we can make rules in relation to the minimum requirements for education and training and the nature and content. The nature and content and duration of the curricular and practical training, which shall be a requirement for the acquisition of a prescribed qualification. So we do have the authority to determine the minimum requirement as far as the training is concerned or qualification is concerned for registrations of different professional categories. We do have the power to make regulations in relation to the institution of an inquiry in terms of Chapter 2. Remember, I spoke to the different chapters. Chapter 3, my apology, talks to the disciplinary powers of council. So we do have the regulation which we call in place, the regulation relating to the conducting of inquiries into alleged unprofessional conduct. We also have the regulations, the rules relating to acts or omissions which shall constitute unprofessional conduct. So we have the separate one for social workers and social auxiliary workers. We also have the separate rules relating to acts or omissions for child and youth care workers. We also have the regulations relating to the conducting of disciplinary inquiries, which guide us in terms of how we should go about investigating allegations of unprofessional or improper conduct. The regulations relating to the conducting of inquiries into alleged unprofessional conduct also have a portion that talks to a form, the notice or summons that may be issued to a respondent, which is a social service professional who is expected to appear before the disciplinary inquiry. We are in the process of making regulations in relation to the registrations and conduct of a private practice by social workers and the professional practice of a social worker conducting a private practice. So the professional board are in the process, and council, they are in the process now of developing the regulation relating to private practice. Now, it goes further in terms of paragraph G, the document which shall accompany an application in terms of this act. So the regulations regarding the registrations of SSP makes provision for the documents which shall accompany an application, which include ID copy, the academic records, and so forth. It goes further to say we can set the requirements to be complied with by an applicant for the registration of a specialty, and one of the requirements is that the person must be in possession of a master's qualification. For example, in terms of forensic specialty in forensic services, one have to be in possession of a master's qualification. But for the purpose of today, we are going to zoom into those relevant regulations. I just want to give the background so that colleagues can understand where do we come from. We can also set the conditions subject to which an SSP may practice such profession as the case may be in respect of a registered specialty. We can also make regulations in relation to acts which especially pertain to the profession of social work or to any other profession in respect of which professional boards have been established or are to be established. The conditions subject to which any person registered in terms of this act may practice his profession. So amongst some of the conditions in particular for child and youth care workers, you will recall the issue of the sunset provision in that certain categories of the profession, which in particular those who have registered at auxiliary level, there was a condition that they may register with employment letters and job description for a particular period, and that provision has fallen off, and those who are still registered or have not yet been in possession of the relevant qualifications, they are due for deregistration. And for the purpose of Eastern Cape, we held a webinar on the 31st of August talking to this particular issue of the sunset clause for child and youth care workers. So we want to encourage more colleagues in the Eastern Cape, in particular child and youth care workers and employers of child and youth care workers, to say, please come forward and comply with the relevant provisions of the regulations regarding the registrations of child and youth care workers, so that we avoid deregistering those who are affected. So there are letters that have been issued, or notice letters that have been issued out to all affected child and youth care workers. So if you have not received a letter by now, and the last time you got registered with us, you used the employment letter and a job description, please note that you are affected. Please come forward and engage the relevant division, which is the registrations division, so that we can see how we deal with your matter. So that is just the message I wanted to send across, particularly the Eastern Cape, as far as the sunset provision is concerned. Now, earlier on, I spoke about section 27, which makes provision for counsel in consultation with the professional board concerned. It can either be the professional board for social work or child and youth care work, to make, and as subject to the approval of the minister, to make the rules. So amongst others, we have the rules relating to the conduct of SSPs, which is the Code of Ethics. So we do have the Code of Ethics for social workers and social auxiliary workers. We do have the Code of Ethics for child and youth care workers. We also have the rules relating to acts or omissions of SSPs which shall constitute unprofessional or improper conduct. Now, the reason we are flighting or we are highlighting this part of the rules, it is because these rules makes provision, in particular the rules relating to acts or omissions. It clearly makes provision that employing a person who is not registered with the SACSSP constitute unprofessional or improper conduct. So in simple terms, colleagues, the employers should be held accountable. And employers in this case, we are talking about supervisors, social work managers, and directors of different NPO organizations, in particular those who are registered with us, and also the head of institutions, child and youth care centers, for example, who are registered with us, and also heads of departments in the different provincial departments of social development and health, and also the director generals of different provincial or national departments. If you are registered with us and you are employing social service professional or persons, they can't be social service professionals because they are not registered. Or if you employ any person who is not registered with council to occupy a post which requires registrations with council, is that conduct is regarded as unprofessional or improper conduct, and you may be held accountable. So people will lodge complaints against you and allow council to investigate. So we want to make an appeal to all employers of social service professionals to please comply with the provisions of the Act, the rules and the regulations as prescribed. And to social service professionals who are due for re-registration or for restorations, we also encourage you to do that, because continue to practice without registering, you are contravening the provisions, or they are contravening. By the way, you are not here. The people who are here, all of you are going to believe that you are compliant, but the message that you must send across is for those who are not complying with the relevant provisions of the Act, the rules, and the regulations, to say you are allowing yourself to, at the end of the day, to end up having a criminal record by failure of complying with the relevant legislations of the country or the Republic of South Africa. Now, the presentation up to so far, colleagues, it was to give context in terms of what we want to share with you today. So that's part one of the presentation we wanted to share. Now we're moving to part two, or the core part of the presentation for this particular webinars. Now, I indicated earlier on when I was talking to the purpose of the webinar that the Minister of Social Development has, in terms of Section 21, subsection 1, paragraph A of the Social Service Professions Act, subsequent to our recommendation as Council, made amended regulations relating to fees payable by social workers, child and youth care workers, social auxiliary workers, and other categories. And these regulations have been published on the 2nd of June 2023 in Government Gazette, notice number 3485, in Government Gazette number 48693. So these are the new regulations in place regulating the fees payable to the council. Now, Regulation 1, by the way, just to make our life simpler, Program Director, the interpretation of statutes that you have what we call a section when you are talking to the Act. Then when you are talking to the Act again, when you have a number in bracket, is regarded as a subsection. Now, when you are talking to the regulations, now the numbers are regarded as Regulation 1, Sub-Regulation 1, Paragraph 1, and so forth and so forth. So for the purpose of these regulations, colleagues, to simplify, so when you hear me talking to regulation 1, it's because it's named as such in terms of the regulations, then it goes to regulation 2. So it's not different regulations, it's just the content of the regulations relating to fees payable. So when we interpret it, you refer to regulations and not sections. The same applies when you interpret the rules. I spoke to the rules made in terms of section 27. So you don't refer to sections or regulations, you refer to rules. So it's rule 1, the number in bracket, it will be sub-rule 2 or sub-rule 1, depending on what is the number in brackets. So that is how it's supposed to be interpreted. So don't go and look for different regulations when I refer to different regulations as we present. Now, regulation 1 of the regulations relating to fees payable makes provision to the definitions. So there are several definitions there, but for the purpose of the presentation, we are highlighting the definition of financial year and reference number for a specific purpose because it causes confusion. So financial year, for the purpose of the regulations relating to fees payable, means a year ending 31st March of every year. So it is not the last date for the payment of annual fees. We will come later and address that issue. The 31st of March is the end of a particular financial year and is for a different purpose, not related to the due date for the payment of the the payment of the annual fee. Now, another definition is in relation to reference number, which a person must use when you are making transaction or making payments to council, and it means a unique identifier assigned to any financial transaction that will enable council to identify the person making a payment and allocate such payment against that person's name. And we are pleading, colleagues, with the sector that please use the correct reference number when you are making payments to council, because failure to do that, it leads into what you call unidentified fees, because we can't allocate that payment against your name or the name of the person who's paying that particular money into our account. Now, reference number for student registration is number 60 plus first 5 digits of one's ID number, and reference number for all other transactions. When you are paying for registration fee or payment of annual fee, you must use your registration number. And because for students, for example, those who have completed their studies and they were registered students, you need to use the number which was allocated to you, your student social worker registration number for the purpose of the payment of the registration fee and the payment of the annual fee. So it is a plea again, colleagues, that we need to use the correct reference number so that we can speedily assist you in the office. Now, regulation 2 talks to regulation 2 paragraph A talks to fees payable to the council by social workers and child and youth care workers at professional level. Now, this is one of the first category of the professionals we are going to talk to. Registration fee by applicants who obtain their qualification at a training institution in the Republic of South Africa. The registration fee is 262. Additional levy in the case of paragraph A, subparagraph 1, for a registration that is requested to be finalized within 3 working days. This is what is called a speed service. The amount is 325. Registration fee by applicants who obtain their qualification at a training institution outside the Republic in SADC country is 1,934 rands. Registration fee by applicants who obtain their qualification at a training institution outside the Republic in all foreign. This part is deleted, colleagues. If you see the any wording in the what do you call in brackets like this, please note that that part is deleted. So it's outside the Republic in countries other than those mentioned in paragraph A, subparagraph 3.
Yeah,
the total amount is 3,804. Re-registration fee by a person whose registration has been suspended in terms of section 21, subsection 1, paragraph D. This is the outcome of a disciplinary inquiry. The person who, after the expiry period of his or her suspension as a result of as a sanction or a penalty of a disciplinary inquiry, the total amount is 803 rand. Now, for a person whose registration has been cancelled in terms of section 22, subsection 1, paragraph C, out of a disciplinary inquiry. So basically, the principle here is that the person whose registration has been cancelled, to say you are striking your name from the roll is not permanent, it's not for life. So a person can later come and reapply for registration, and the total payment for the registration fee is 803. Now, the annual fee subject to regulation 3, which we'll talk to later, is 500 for social workers and child and youth care workers. Now, another category, or it continues in terms of the listing of different types of services. The fee, which is the registration and the annual fee, basically is the restoration fee for the restoration of the name of a person whose name has been removed from the register in terms of section 20, subsection 3, is 762. Registrar's fund for fees after the 31st of March, you might see it in the regulations. However, this part is not enforceable by virtue of imposing the regulation, imposing what you call is the restoration fee. So basically, the fund, registrar's fund, is replaced by the restoration fee. However, noting that there's a huge number of the social service professionals who are failing to pay the annual fee on time, this is one of the areas that council will be looking into as to what particular period can we impose or reintroduce what is called the late payment, a fine for late payment of fees outside the due date, which we'll talk to later. Now, examination fee for the purpose of an examination of a person who obtained a qualification outside the Republic in terms of section 17, capital letter D, subsection 3, the amount is 1,234. Examination fee for the purpose of an examination of a person who obtained a qualification inside the Republic in terms of section 18, capital letter A, subsection 5, the amount is 1,340. The admin fee for additional services in relation to the prescribed paragraphs, I'm not going to read them, colleagues, that are clear, for the reassessment of an application that needs to be resubmitted due to insufficient information, is 214. Again, we are appealing to anyone who's making transaction to council to make a particular payment to please use your registration number as a reference number, because these categories are registered already. You do have your registration number. Now, category B in relation to, or is in relation to, registering a specialty in terms of section 17, capital letter C. The assessment fee is 900, registration fee is 233. Re-registration fee for a person who has been suspended and after the expiry period, you want to apply and continue to register for that specialty, the amount is 803. Now, for re-registrations after your registration or your specialty has been cancelled as a result of the disciplinary inquiry, is 803 as well. And the annual fee for those who are registered for specialty is 500 rand. The fee, which is the restoration and the annual fee for those who have been deregistered as far as in the area of their area of specialty, the restoration fee is 762. Again, we spoke about the issue of the registrar's fund to say it's not enforceable by virtue that we have a restoration fee in place. Examination fee for specialty in terms of section 17, capital letter, it should be capital letter C, it's not in brackets, colleagues. Subsection 2, capital letter A, paragraph B of the Act. My apology is 1,340. The admin fee in the event where your application has to be reassessed because you did not submit all the information, the amount is 214. Now, category C talks to student social workers and student child and youth care workers. The registration fee is 262, and the registration fee by a person whose registration has been suspended is 803, and the one whose registration is being cancelled by virtue of the outcome of the disciplinary inquiry is 803, and the restoration fee is 262, and the admin fee additional to the fees prescribed in relation to an application that has to be reassessed is 214. Just to emphasize that the registration fee for all the categories which we have spoke to now up to so far, which is A, social workers and child and youth care workers, B, for specialty, and now C, the registration fee, it's a once-off payment. Unlike the annual fee is like, as I'm saying to it, it's self-explanatory. It's an annual fee which must be paid annually by the 2nd of January each year. So we'll come and clarify that issue of the date. Then category D, social auxiliary workers and auxiliary child and youth care workers. The registration fee is 262. Then the additional levy in case of paragraph D, subparagraph 1 for a registration which is requested to be finalized within 3 working days, which is a speed service, is 325. Registration fee by applicants who obtain their qualification at a training outside the Republic in SADC countries is 1.3 and 10 rands. Registration fee by applicants who obtain their qualification at training institutions outside the Republic in countries other than those mentioned in paragraph A, subparagraph 3, which is outside the SADC countries, is 2.4 and 95 rands. Registration fee by a person whose registration has been suspended in terms of the disciplinary inquiry is 803. And for a person whose registration was cancelled as a result of the outcome of a disciplinary inquiry is 803. And the annual fee for social auxiliary workers and auxiliary child and youth care workers is at the level, a reasonable amount of 250 rands. So I always struggle to understand colleagues why colleagues fail to pay an annual fee at the level of an amount of less than 250, and currently now is 250, but we'll hope that colleagues will improve in this particular area. The restoration fee is 512, and the registrar's fund, again, we need to clarify this point, is not enforceable by virtue of having a restoration fee in place. Then the examination fee for a person who obtained a qualification outside the Republic is 1,340, and a person who has obtained a qualification inside the Republic, the amount is 1,340 as well. Then the admin fee for reassessment of an application as a result of insufficient information is 214. So this is the 4th category. The other category, which talks to pertaining to continuing professional development. So this cuts across all the all the social service professionals. So fees for the approval of CPD activity offered to practitioners at no cost to a practitioner is 150 rand, and fees for approval of an CPD activity offered to a practitioner at a specified registration fee or cost to that practitioner is 800 rand. An admin fee for the reassessment of an application as a result of failure to submit all the required documents and which talks to insufficient information is 214 rand. So these are the categories in terms of the fees that are payable to council. And the last category is in relation to what we call miscellaneous fees to be paid to the council. I practiced this word last night and this morning, and I thought I would get it right once off, so I struggled again. So fees for a duplicate registration certificate, in case of those who have lost their registration certificate, is 275. Fee for inspection of the register per occasion is 275. Fee for the issue of an extract from the register, it should be there or not here, is 562. And fee for certificate of status of good standing, which is the status, what colleagues know as the status report, the fee is 675. And for those who are looking for a speed service will have to pay a reasonable amount of 325. Now, those are the fees which are payable to council. Now, Regulation 2, paragraph H, that talks to the fees referred to in paragraphs A, B, and C. We spoke to them earlier on, colleagues. We spoke to D. We also spoke to E. Now, the message that we want to emphasize, colleagues, is that the new regulations, which were published on the 2nd of June 2023, they've amended the due date for the payment of the annual fee from 2nd January every year to the 1st of January every year. So meaning that your annual fee is payable to council on or before the 1st of January each year, not the 2nd of January and not the 31st of March. The 31st of March is not the due date for the payment of the annual fee. So now we are in September. Basically, between now and the 1st of January 2024, you are allowed to pay the annual fee. If you are a social worker, it's 500 rand. If you are a child and youth care worker, it's 500 rand. If you registered for a specialty, it's 500 rand. If you are a child and youth care worker at auxiliary level and a social auxiliary worker at a child and care worker at auxiliary level, the amount is 250. So that's the point that we want, the message that we want to send across, colleagues. So the annual fee for the 2024-2025 financial year is due by the 1st of January, my apology, the 1st of January 2024 and not the 31st of March 2024. The date 31st March is the end of a financial year and serves a different purpose as far as the regulations on fees payable is concerned. So we are appealing to colleagues, be it employers and social service professionals, to please pay your annual fee on time so that we can make use of the period up to the 31st of March to process payments and issue practice card before the 1st of April 2024. So please try us, colleagues, because I want to see as to what will be the reason why we can't issue with your practice card on time in the event you pay your annual fee on time. So that's something that we really need to establish, and the finance and admin manager and the colleagues will really assist us in this regard. So we received a briefing from the finance and admin who indicated to us that they will be starting the process of issuing the invoices. So we are hoping by end of September or latest mid-October that all social service professionals should be in possession of their invoices so that they can start paying the annual fee, because come October or end of October, we are expecting the Provincial Department of Social Development and the Provincial Department of Health and their national departments to pay or deduct monies from social service professionals in their employment and remit those deductions to council. So for social service professionals appointed or working for the Department of Social Development and Health, you do not have to pay, please do not pay the annual fee directly to council. The employer will deduct the money through the bargaining council resolution that makes provision for your employer to deduct the annual fee from your salary and pay it to council directly. So please do not pay if you are in the Department of Social Development or Department of Health at the level of a province or at the level of national. Please do not pay your annual fee directly to council. Your employer will take responsibility for that. And in the event employer is not doing that, we will engage employer. We will not penalize you because there is an agreement in place for that particular purpose. So please, colleagues, let's send the message out for social service professionals and employers to pay the annual fee for the 2024-2025 financial year no later than the 1st of January 2024. And the principle that we need, other principle that we need to highlight, colleagues, is that the new regulations no longer phased out the issue of the pro rata. So there's no pro rata payment as far as the registration fee is concerned, and also the annual fee is concerned. So if you register in the middle of the financial year, you need to pay the full amount or the full registration fee. If you pay or also register in the middle of the year or financial year, you are liable to pay full annual fee for that particular financial year. Now, the other conditions attached to the payment of the annual fees and those other fees which you spoke to earlier on is that the first-time registration as a social worker, a social auxiliary worker, a child and youth care worker, or an auxiliary child and youth care worker, or a person registering specialty, registration and annual fee is payable in full, and I think I spoke to this particular provision earlier on, in full for the financial year concerned before such person's name is entered in the register. So there's no longer provision for pro rata. In the case of a person who applies for re-registration in terms of Section 22, subsection 4, which talks to the application for registrations after the expiry of the suspension period, the registration fee and annual fee is payable in full for the financial year concerned before such person's name can be entered in the register. The same applies to a person whose registration was cancelled. When you want to come back and you feel that you have been rehabilitated, again, you will need to pay the registration fee and the annual fee in full, irrespective of which period of the year you apply for registration. Now, in the case of a person whose name is restored in terms of Section 20, subsection 3 of the Act, to a register referred to in Section 19, subsection 1 of the Act, the restoration fee and annual fee must be paid in full for the financial year concerned before such person's name is re-entered or restored to the register, provided that we are not being offensive or attacking anyone the sector. When we highlighted this point, we just wanted to emphasize it so that it becomes clear in that in case of a person who has failed to pay any money in terms of Section 20 subsection 1 paragraph D. This is failure to pay the monies due to council within a period of 3 months after they fell due. And such person has proceeded to practice the annual fee be paid in full for the current financial year and outstanding financial years he or she practiced before such person's name can be restored to the register concerned. Basically, it says all social or those social service professionals who are owing council historical fees, those historical fees will not be cancelled. When you come back for restoration, you must pay all outstanding annual fees. If it's 10 years, or it's 5 years, or 6 years, you are liable to pay those outstanding those financial years. And the other issue that we need to emphasize here is that for those who will be applying for restoration, and you've been deregistered for a period of more than 5 years, you will be subjected to what we call the restoration panel processes, where they might invite you for an interview. And for those who have been deregistered as a result of section 20, subsection 1, paragraph D, for less than 5 years, you will still be, there's generosity there by council in that you will be restored automatically, but subject to paying us the monies that you owe to council in terms of what we call historical fees. Now, it goes further to say the monies which are due to council be payable for the financial years following the publication of this regulation that shall apply to all persons irrespective of the date of the publication. So these regulations are applicable to everyone. So you cannot say you were not aware of this regulation. So they came into place on the 2nd of June 2023. So they are applicable to all of our social service professionals. And those who are deregistered and wants to come back, these regulations will still be applicable to you. Now, all the fees referred to in these regulations include tax or VAT, if I were to call it that way. So you don't have to pay additional monies as far as tax is concerned. So the tax is inclusive in terms of the total amount per category or per fee that is due to council or you're supposed to pay to council. Now we are moving away from regulation 2. Now we are talking to regulation 3, which I call it the exemption provision, because it talks to exemption from paying applicable fee. And paragraph 8 states that any person who attains the age of 65 on 1st January who is not full-time employed or continue to be full-time employed, provided that such application reach council annually or on or before the 30th of November. So basically it says the people who have reached the age of 65, they do qualify for an exemption. But by the 1st of January, so meaning that if you happen to turn 65, let's say, for example, in February or in March or just after the 1st of January, you will qualify for exemption for the next financial year. For example, if you are turning 65 on or before the 1st of January 2024, you will qualify for an exemption for the 2024-2025 financial year. But if you turn 65 after the 1st of January, which is the due date by the way of that's the reason why you will not fall into the current financial year, which is the 24-25. You will qualify for the exemption in that year, the next financial year, which is probably 2026. However, your application must reach council on or before latest the 30th of November each year. So meaning that those will be turning, or who have turned 65 or will be turning 65 by 1st of January 2024 may apply for restoration, but such application must be in with us by the 30th of November so that we can assess that application and make a determination. Then paragraph B, a person who does not practice his or a profession because of health reasons, or a person who has been unemployed for a period of 3 consecutive months or longer, subject to the submission of, should be of the following with his or her application. So before I talk to the document that needs to be submitted, basically this provision also exempt a person who is experiencing health for health reasons. You may apply and qualify for an exemption. Colleagues who are unemployed, they do qualify for exemption, or they may qualify for an exemption if they are unemployed. So please encourage people who are unemployed to apply for an exemption, for a person not to sit and say, I'm unemployed, I'm unable to pay the annual fee, therefore I'm just going to sit and not say anything to council, because it creates a problem for us. It says we must deregister you. Now you need to submit a written proof that you are unemployed for a period of 3 consecutive months or longer, and an affidavit completed at SACSSP on a prescribed form, which you may request from us or access on our website, that you are you've been unemployed and therefore you do not have any form of income. Now, a person contemplated in subparagraph 1 and subparagraph 2 shall reapply annually for the renewal of the exemption. So the exemption is not permanent. It's an annual event, if I were to put it that way. So every year, by the 30th of November, if you are over the age of 65 or unemployed, or as a result of health reason, you may apply for exemption. So it's not once off, it's not a permanent thing. You must apply annually for an exemption. And a person referred to in paragraph B must be a registered person, must be registered with council, and his or an application, again, I want to emphasize, should reach us by latest the 30th of November. So you can't apply for an exemption while you are deregistered or you are not registered with us. You need firstly to go through the route of restoration. Then as soon as you are registered and you meet the requirements, then your application for exemption will be considered and probably qualify for exemption. Now, paragraph C provides that any person other than a person mentioned in paragraph A, talks to over 65, if we were to call it that way, who is not practicing because of health reasons and unemployed, and who in the course of a financial year ceases to practice the profession or not before the 31st March of that financial year, and who applies in writing to the council. And we receive that application before the 30th of November. This person may apply what we call partial exemption, to not to pay the full annual fee, and will qualify for 50% thereof of the annual fee. So these are a person who still wants to be registered with council or still wants to be identified with council, but is no longer practicing. So we will qualify for what you call partial exemption. And any person who qualifies for an exemption in terms of paragraph B and C is not allowed to practice the profession that he or she is registered for. So we need to clarify this issue, colleagues. It does not completely, this provision prohibits people who have been granted an exemption to practice. It says during the period of an exemption, because you can't apply for an exemption because you are unemployed. we give an exemption, then you go and continue practicing without telling us. It goes further to say you must, before re-entering the profession, inform council in writing of such intention, and you must pay within 30 days. My apologies, will be 30, not 3. 30 days, the annual fee for the financial year during which you have resumed to practice, after which such exemption shall fall off. So basically it says during the period of an exemption, you are not allowed to practice because you have been granted an exemption. Like you said you are unemployed, you said you are sick, therefore you cannot practice. However, in the event you feel that your health has improved or you have to obtain a job, the regulation says you must inform us in writing of your intention to come back, and you must within 30 days pay the annual fee and in full for that particular financial year. So the issue of the pro rata, again, it also falls off. So that's the message, colleagues, that we need to send out. So we shouldn't tell the sector that you are not allowed to practice completely. No, it's subject to informing us and that you must pay the annual fee for the remainder of the financial year. However, that payment should be a full amount as far as the prescribed annual fee is concerned. Now, quickly running to Regulation 4, is that the Regulation 4 provides for the repealing of the 2021 regulations on fees payable. And those are the regulations. So we just put the number there, or the Gazette number 4, just for information purposes for those who are not familiar with the previous regulations. Regulation 5 talks to the publishing a list of valid transaction type codes. So basically it says we must publish the valid transaction type code mentioned in sub-regulation 2 on the website, so that the sector can be aware in terms of the prescribed fees for a particular financial year. So the finance division and also our communications divisions are responsible for that. So part of what we are doing now is just to sensitize colleagues to be aware of the prescribed fees payable to council. And sub-regulation 4, payments that cannot be correctly allocated because what we call unidentified fees, because a person has failed to comply with sub-regulation 2, will be regarded as not received in time if there is a deadline by which the payment is due. So basically it says if you make a payment or the payment of annual fee, I think that's the one that has the due date or the deadline. If you pay the annual fee on time, but you do not indicate the correct reference number, that payment will be regarded as a fee not paid on time because we could not process it within the specific time. So if you come after the 1st of January, but you paid on the 20th of December, I'm just making an example, but we only pick up after the 1st of January, you are coming forward to tell us that you paid and you are not receiving your practice card. That money that you paid will be regarded as what we call late payment because we could not allocate it accordingly. So that's the principle of sub-regulation 4. Now, sub-regulation 5, the payment contemplated in sub-regulation 4. So the basically is that how do we handle the what you call unidentified fees? So the regulation says those monies must be kept in a separate account until such time that the person who made the payment is identified for a period not exceeding 3 months. So we'll keep those monies in a separate account for a maximum period of 3 years, whereafter the fee will be regarded. So we can't use it during the period of the 3 years until such time that you come. And if you don't come and the 3-year period lapses, those monies or unallocated monies or income, it will go into the main account of council, if I were to put that way, and we will use it for the operations of council, because we can't pay it back because we don't know who paid those particular monies. So that's what the regulations are providing, and we hope that colleagues will comply with the regulations. Now the presentation goes further to talk to the method of payment. And we are saying, please note the following facilities for the payment of SACSSP annual fees: payment directly at any branch of Nedbank, individual or those who pay individually. We are kindly requesting that you ensure that you use your practice number as your reference number on your deposit slip. For employers, if I were to call it that way, companies must provide council with a detailed list containing the names, registration numbers, and amounts paid in respect of each person. Failure to comply with this requirement, it leads us into what we call unidentified fee. So let's try to avoid this issue, because it creates an administrative nightmare for us in the office. Now, another method of payments, electronic or internet payments. Individuals, please ensure that you use your practice number as your reference number. Payments directly at SACSSP offices. Employers must provide, again, a detailed list containing the names, registration number, amounts paid in respect of each person. Again, to avoid unidentified fees, please use the correct number. However, when you come to the office, please note that we do not accept cash. So we use the electronic method of payment. It's best that you do it that way, colleague. And in the office, we use the machine, if I were to call it that way. So again, so you can't come to the office and say you do the EFT, because now you still need to attach or to submit what we call a proof of payment. So best way, if you come with a proof of payment. But if you come in the office, please note that we do not accept the cash payment. Those are our banking details. The account number is there. Account number 1190739410, and the type of account is the current account, and there is the branch code 198765. Now, continue with the method of payments. Say pay through debit or credit card. You need to scan the QR code indicated on the invoice, and this can also be presented at any subs across the country: ShopRite, Checkers, House and Home, or House and Home, OK Furniture, or U-Save stores. So if you are in the rural areas and you cannot go to the bank, you can access one of these retail facilities and do the payment. So we don't have any reasons these days, colleagues, for us not to pay the annual fee on time. The concerns that I need to share with my colleagues who are social service professionals, it's for a person to call the office, says, I'm looking for my registration number. So I always ask myself, how can a social service professional not know his or registration number? Because it's part of your professional identity. So now we receive almost thousands of calls of colleagues looking for their practice number. So for me, I just feel it's unfair, colleagues, as social service, as professionals, that we need to know our registration number by heart. So I'm pleading with you to say, please make sure that you know your registration number, to avoid the number of calls that we receive in the office. We are happy to assist you on a daily basis, but my view is that some of these services that you are looking for are at your disposal. The information that you are looking for is at your disposal, colleagues. Please use that information and avoid making calls into the office so that we can assist others who are looking for technical support in terms of the issues that they are experiencing on the ground. On the ground. Students, institutions of higher learning should provide the council with a detailed list of the bulk payment containing the full names, ID numbers, and the amount paid in respect of each person, failure which it leads to what we call unidentified fees. Now, what are the consequences for failure to pay the annual fee on time? So this one is specific, colleagues. It doesn't talk to other fees, because the other fees are subject to, if you don't pay the registration, we can't register you. If you don't want to pay the restoration fee, we can't restore your name on the register. If you don't want to pay for status report, we can't issue with the status report. The same applies to we want to access the extract of our register or to observe or peruse our registers is subject to the applicant. However, the annual fee, colleagues, is mandatory. Every social service professional has the obligation to pay the annual fee by no later than the 1st of January each year, because failure to do so, colleagues, it requires us to invoke the provisions of Section 20, which provides that council may order the registrar to remove the name of any person from the register concerned if the council is satisfied that such person, paragraph D, has failed to pay any money which he owes to the council within 3 days after the date upon which it became payable. Now, colleagues, in simple terms, the annual fee is due by the 1st of January each year. That is the due date for the payment of the annual fee. The period between, or a period of 90 days, the period between the 2nd of January and the last 90th day. And I also don't want to emphasize this day, because in my view, I'm saying, colleagues, we should not have this issue of the 90 days. It should fall off, colleagues. We should pay the annual fee on time to avoid being being categorized as people, or being tagged as people who are due for deregistration. So if you fail to pay your annual fee on time, your name, the system shall tag you for deregistration, subject to 1, the 90th period, which is the 3 months period. And the second condition is that there must be a council resolution. So basically, after the 90th day, counting from the 2nd of January, those people who have failed to pay those monies are due for what we call for deregistration, subject to the council resolution. So now the name of a person who fails to pay the monies owed to council may be removed from the register after 90 days. I emphasize this particular issue counting from the 2nd of January 2024. And I spoke to the issue of the condition, which is subject to council resolution. Now, what is the status of before we talk to the status, is that the process of the deregistration or removal of a person's name from the register for failure to pay the annual fee is that we must issue that person with a notice, with a letter of deregistration, if you were to put it that way, in terms of Section 20, Section 1, subsection 1, paragraph A. Now, here is the challenge, colleagues, that most of the SSPs might have received the notice letters, or might have not received the notice. Your program director, there's competition.
We will address that.
Thank you. Now, I was saying the challenge with us implementing the deregistration process, which effectively caused us to issue the notice letters, is that we issue letters, but most of the letters do not reach the recipients. And part of the problem is because colleagues do not update their contact details. So we are pleading with colleagues to say, actually, the section 20 is also clear in terms of the people who are supposed to update their contact details. The same applies if you go to the regulations regarding the registrations of SSPs. You are required within 3 months after you have changed your contact details, addresses, and so forth, to update your contact details on our register. You can do it online. I want to believe so. Colleagues will clarify me. Or you can send a communique to council requesting that we update your contact particulars, if I were to put it that way, so that you can receive communication on time, in particular in the event that there's a decision that is being made against you which might affect your registration with council. Now, the status of a person's registration certificate, a person whose name has been removed from the register, is that the Regulation 4, Sub-Regulation 2 of the regulations regarding the registrations of social workers, which include also social auxiliary workers, is that the certificate of registration is deemed to have been withdrawn from the date the name of the holder thereof was removed from the register, because we won't be able to recall all the registration certificates. So if your name has been removed from the register, that particular registration certificate is regarded or deemed to have been withdrawn as well, meaning that it's no longer of value. So basically, this issue employers, it says to employers that when you employ a person, don't only make them to submit the registration certificate, but requires them to submit the practice card for the specific financial year. So if you were to employ somebody tomorrow, please ask that person to produce the practice card or call council to verify that person's registration status before you employ that person, because others might use the registration certificate only to find that in actual fact they've been removed from the register, or they are in the process of being removed from the register because they failed to pay the annual fee. Just to sensitize you colleagues, we are having over more than 10,000. For this year only, over 10,000 social service professionals who have failed to pay the annual fee for the 2023-2024 financial year. So we are in the process of removing those people from the register. So we do have the list. However, we are encouraging employers, please contact us before you employ any person, either as a social worker or a child care worker or a social auxiliary worker. Now, we spoke about the implication of a person practicing without registration or regarding him or herself as a professional registered with council, to say those people will be contravening section 15, subsection 1. And then if found guilty by a court of law, they may be convicted and be liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months. So this is why I said a person may end up with a criminal record just by virtue of a failure to pay the annual fee, or just regarding him or herself as a social worker and practicing as such while he or she is not registered. Now, further to that, the other consequences for failure to pay the annual fee is that employers, because those people, we regard them as unregistered persons, we will deal with them in terms of section 15 and section 16. However, you have the responsibility as well, and this responsibility is provided for in Rule 3 of the rules relating to the acts or omissions of a social worker, a social auxiliary worker, a student social worker, which shall constitute unprofessional or improper conduct. So these regulations deems a conduct where you are employing a person who is not registered with us as unprofessional or improper conduct. So I want to emphasize again, supervisors, colleagues, and social work managers and so forth, and employers of child and youth care workers. Because if you go to Rule 4, paragraph E, and Rule 7, paragraph F of the rules relating to the act or omission of a child and youth care worker, it also makes a regard this particular conduct of employing person who are not registered with us as unprofessional or improper conduct. So we will invoke the provisions of these rules to hold employers, in particular supervisors, social work managers, and directors and HODs and so forth, who are registered with us, accountable for contravening the relevant provisions of the Act, rules, and regulations. Now, in the event that you accept that your name was correctly removed from the register and you still want to practice and identify with us, you may apply for restoration in terms of Section 20, subsection 3. And your application must be made in a prescribed manner. And after the payment of the prescribed fees, we spoke about the 700 plus, which is inclusive of the annual fee and the restoration fee. However, if you remain aggrieved by the decision of council to remove your name from the register in terms of Section 20, subsection 1, paragraph D, you have the right to appeal that decision. I don't know what will be the reason and whether you will succeed with that reason. However, the Act makes provision for any person who's aggrieved by a particular decision, and this also goes with the principle of Section 33 of the Constitution of the Republic, that we must provide with the reason. That's why we do what we call the notice letters. And if you are aggrieved, you have the right to appeal that decision, and your appeal must reach the office of the registrar within 3 months of the decision has been made, and that appeal will be submitted to the Minister of Social Development for the minister to establish an independent appeal committee. The appeal committee will consider the appeal. We are, as council, we are a respondent in that particular appeal hearing. We will defend the matter and present our argument as to why we have removed your name from the register, and the independent panel will make a decision, and their decision is final. So if they say, council, you were wrong, they will instruct us to restore your name on the register. Or if they say, council, you were right by removing this person's name from the register and you still remain aggrieved, you have the right to take that particular decision for a review in the High Court and until up the last apex court, which is the Constitutional Court. So those are the rights that are proffered or given to social service professionals. So we are also a responsible statutory board to not remove any person from the register without any valid reasons, by virtue that somebody might take us to task. So those are the rights that comes with registering with us, but also your rights must be balanced with the responsibilities, and our responsibilities or the obligations that comes with the registrations are as simple, colleagues. They are not complicated, they are as simple as they are. And the main one is the payment of the annual fee on time, which going forward is the 1st of January each year. Now, what are the roles and the responsibilities of SSPs and employers? So throughout the presentation, I've highlighted most of the roles and the responsibilities. And just to summarize, colleagues, is that colleagues who are registered with us, please comply with the Act, the rules, and the regulations. That's the request that we are making. And employers of SSPs, please implement the Act, the rules and the regulations, and take necessary steps in terms of the Labor Relations Act against SSPs who refuse or fail to comply with the Act, the rules and regulations, and report same to council. Now, at this point in time, I want to use an example of the Gauteng model. The Gauteng, which Department of Social Development, we need to commend them. There was a particular year, I think it's either 2019 or so, or 2020. So they took a decision that they are not going to allow any social service professionals to continue practicing without registrations. So they provided a list, or they identified those who are affected, and they gave them the notices in terms of the Labor Relations Act to say, please provide the reasons as to why we should not take disciplinary action against you for failure to be a registered person. So basically is that if you fail to provide valid reasons, you are a subject of what you call a dismissal within your respective employer. So I want to commend the Gauteng Department of Social Development for doing that, and want to believe that also other provinces are doing that. So this is the message that we also want to send to Eastern Cape. And employers were not only referring to the department, but talking also to local government. I mean, most municipalities, they employ social service professionals, also other sister departments, but also in the NPO sector. So we're appealing to you to say, borrow the model of Gauteng and enforce our law and ensure that everyone within you is registered with us. But the appeal that we want to make before I close the presentation is that the Section 20 of the Social Service Professions Act, subsection 1, paragraph A, makes the reason for one of the reasons for council to remove a name from the person from the register. A person was deceased. Now, colleagues, we won't know that a person has passed on because our system currently is not linked to the Department of Home Affairs system. So we are appealing to employers that as and when the unfortunate things like death of social service professionals do come visit us or you within your respective workplaces in terms of a particular person, please inform council in writing so that we can be able to remove the name of that person from the register. Because if you do not do that, and some of the family members, they are not literate, so they might not even remember or know that they are supposed to inform council that this person has passed on. So we want to appeal to the employers to please, as and when those unfortunate incidents do take place, to inform us in writing so that we can update our registers in terms of colleagues who have passed on. Now, thanks very much, Program Director. That brings us to the end of the presentation. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Acting Registrar. Colleagues, SSPs, with such detailed information, we want to believe that we have learned. We have gathered knowledge. We will, sorry, colleagues, for that. My apology for that, colleagues. I already see a hand. I wanted to say, I'm not seeing the program on my screen. I want to believe that colleagues are seeing the program on their screens. It's now the item where we need to engage with the sector. And we want to believe that the presentation by the acting registrar was very much detailed, was very much informative. As and when we correct, we move forward, we hope that the SSPs have clearly picked up some information that will alleviate fears of them being members of the council of the SACSSP. It will also assist them to understand certain processes. Why do they unfold them in the manner they are unfolding? Regulations are there to guide us. So with that said, we would now want to open for the question and answer session. Colleagues, can we start seeing the hands? I saw a hand. Now I want to note the hand. It has disappeared. We are on the aspect now where we need to engage with council colleagues. Can we see by the raising of hands so that we can note colleagues and then we can engage? Thank you. No. Acting registrar, I am not. Oh, I wanted to say acting registrar, I am not seeing a hand. So that means the presentation was very clear and straight to the point. The sector has understood, the sector has grasped the message. But before we move on, acting registrar, I think your hand is up. Maybe we can allow you to input or present. Then we can move to questions.
No, thanks, Ma'am. No, I was saying that we may open the session to everyone, because by virtue that these regulations are new, you might find that some colleagues amongst us within the council, they might need clarity on something. So let's allow them as well to ask questions where they need clarity on some of the provisions. Thanks.
Thank you, acting registrar. With the advice coming from the office of the registrar, colleagues within the office as well, you are allowed to ask for clarities as and when you are not certain. SSPs, you are allowed to engage council so that then we can clarify, we can assist them with knowledge, with information, so that then SSPs can be well informed on the fees payable by them to council. Thank you. With that said, we are trying to trace the hands. If there's anyone who's raising the hands for clarity, for comment, for any presentation that we might want to present to us, this is the platform now. We are opening that to participants. Okay, I'm gonna go to the chat because I'm seeing a comment in the chat. It says, in the case of Department of Social Development in Eastern Cape, not deducting annual fee and registration fees according to specified dates, will individuals be held accountable for late payments? That is the only one that we've received for now. SSPs, we highly request your indulgence in this. Can we engage on this matter so that then we can assist one another? Yes, we can also use the chat box to put our comments or our concerns or even questions to us so that then we can try and provide clarity. Thank you. Acting registrar, we've got only one in for now. Maybe you can talk to that. Thank you.
No, thanks, Program Director. No, the colleagues who may be affected as a result of the employer not deducting the annual fee on time by deducting from their salaries, which is by October this year, they will not be penalized by the SACSSP. What we will do, we will engage the department directly, because the principle from the bargaining council is that we need to work together on this particular program and ensure compliance. So no one will be penalized as a result of the delay or failure thereof by the employer. So we do have the contact numbers of all the colleagues within all the provincial department. So where we do not see the payment and the list is there, we do engage them. So, and they are also open to us. So no one will be penalized, program director, for the late payment or failure thereof by the employer. However, we need to emphasize this point, program director, that there may be colleagues who employer might not deduct the annual fee for a specific year because that person has what we call outstanding historical fees owed to council. So in that case, employer might not make the deduction, or they might make the deduction and also flag the outstanding historical fees. It is the responsibility of the registrant to come forward and pay the outstanding fees. So that's one of the reasons why employer might not deduct, because others, they are implementing their resolutions differently. They might not deduct. However, please note that it is your responsibility to settle the historical fees. The regulations or the bargaining council agreement does not make provision for the employer to deduct more than what is prescribed as the annual fee for a particular financial year. However, if the person wants to make an arrangement with the employer, you can do that, but ultimately it is your responsibility to ensure that the monies due to council are being paid. The other issue is that much as we are saying employer is responsible for the deducting and the payments thereof, we also want to encourage colleagues to say, where you see nothing happening from your employer side, there's no deduction, please engage your employer as to, I see no deduction this November now, nothing is happening. What could be the challenge? So that you take responsibility as well. It could be that they've omitted your name from the register, from the list that has been submitted to council, or is supposed to be submitted to council. So please engage them. And when we can't see your name on the list that we receive, our assumption, it will be that you are no longer working for the Department of Social Development. Hence, your name is not appearing on the list, and we will process you accordingly. But what happens is that in the event that you are still working for the department and we happen to remove your name by mistake, if I were to call it by error, in that there was a payment, but the department did not account you accordingly, we will restore your name on the register. But in a nutshell, no one will be affected or be held accountable as a result of employer's administrative challenges. Thanks, Program Director.
Thank you, Acting Registrar, for that clear, comprehensive answer. Colleagues, I'm not too sure whether we are still not clear, hence we are not raising hands, or the presentation was clear to the point that we had grasped. We are now understanding everything that was presented, because I'm not seeing any raise of hands. So colleagues, I'm gonna start by saying the presentation talked to the Act. So by us not raising hands, we are confirming to council, to the acting registrar and the staff at council that SSPs of Eastern Cape are clear on the fees that are payable by themselves. The council talks to the committees. The acting registrar presented committees of council. Still, there's no hand coming up. The acting registrar presented legislation, the mandate, responsibilities by practitioners, being the SSPs, responsibilities by employers, and also the regulations themselves. So I don't know whether must we be worried now, acting registrar, to say, hey, there are no hands. But I want to believe SSPs have really thank you, Mamorake, for breaking that for me. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Program Director. This is just an assumption to say sometimes when the presentation is very clear, of course, there's no need to ask questions, but maybe what can assist us as the council program director, maybe if the attendees, especially the SSPs from Eastern Cape, they can just, give us feedback on the charts. Whoever is willing just to say it, directly, they can do that. But maybe if they can also write on the charts, their feedback will assist as we'll be proceeding to other provinces from tomorrow. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Mamorake. SSPs in the Eastern Cape. We want to believe that we managed to trace and invite some of them acting registrar to join and partake in these crucial sessions. So I've seen 2 comments requesting that the presentation be shared from Ms. Yolanda van Rooyen. It was a question, will you please, the presentation, I want to believe that she omitted the word share. Will you please share the presentation to the attendees? This information is crucial and all social workers need to know this. Thanks for a well-presented webinar. And then followed by Sisipho Mkutukana. I hope I'm pronouncing your surname correct. And then Sipho is also asking if can the presentation also be shared. That's the 2 questions that we are having, acting. Registrar.
Program Director.
Yes. And then I said we've got 2 questions that we're asking for the presentation to be shared. And then we've got another question that is coming that says, previously social workers paid no annual fee. There's this question from Ms. Wilhelmine van Niekerk. She is asking, previously social workers paid no annual fee. What is the purpose for this? So these are the 2 questions that have we've highlighted, we've picked up from the chat box, acting registrar. If you can then respond to them while tracking other comments or concerns. Yes, thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Program Director. The previously SSPs did not pay annual fee. What is the purpose of this? Now, it can't be that the SSPs or the issue of the annual fee is new. It's not new. It has been there since the establishment of this statutory body, and it has never changed. The only part that changes is the amount, which changes over some time. Sometimes it's every year, so depending on how often we amend the regulation. And the other change which came up is in relation to the date on which the annual fee is payable. So if there's any person who probably, let me just say, since 1998, because that's the time which the first council assumed office until now, the 5th council. So if there's any person who has not been paying the annual fees since they got registered with council, so those are the colleagues who are not complying with the regulations, and we are encouraging them to come forward because they fall within that category of owing us what we call historical fees. So the these regulations are not new, colleagues. It's not for the first time. These are regulations that have been amended. They've been there for many years. And the Act, as I've indicated, you will recall that part of the presentation spoke to Section 28, subsection 1, paragraph A, which makes provision for council to make regulations in relation to the annual fees and other fees. So it has been there for some time, for many years. So we encourage the colleagues who might have not been aware that they are supposed to pay the annual fee to come forward so that we can see how we work with them. It could be possible, Chair, Program Director, that there might be 1 or 2 or 3 or so colleagues who might not have been aware that after registering they're supposed to pay the fee, or what we call the annual fee, or religiously so. So we encourage everyone to come forward and engage us in good faith so that we can make a determination as to how we process their issues of historical fees. Thanks, Program Director.
Thank you, Chair. We've noted the hand of Mr. Nzama, followed by Ms. Murage. Can they present in that order? Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director and the Acting Registrar for the detailed presentation. I think from my side, it's not the question per se, just a comment. And I was hoping maybe the colleagues were going to maybe highlight or raise it since it directly affects them as registrants. The registration that is normally done through the deduction from the employer, because he, as registrant, also affect them in a sense that let's say the practice cards have been delivered or collected or submitted to the employer, especially after the end of March of every year. They normally arrive late to the registrant, and it also affect them as and when they want to contest the post that's been advertised and so forth, because in most cases the post or the advert would want a proof of registration only to find out that the registrant you are not in possession of that proof at a particular moment. So it end up affecting you negatively in a sense that you are unable to submit all the required documents as the adverts. Maybe hence I was saying it's a comment, not a question. I say maybe I don't know how best we can maybe affect some registrant in that regard, so that maybe at the end of each and every financial year, they are in possession of practice card, especially those who have been taxed through the employers.
Mr. Nzama? Nzama? I think maybe his network is giving him some challenges. We've had the question towards the end that says, how can maybe we assist the registrants with practice card? But I do not want to summarize it if that's not the true version of the concern that Mr. Nzama was presenting. We'll try and reconnect him and ask him to further or to repeat his question so that we can capture it as he's presenting it, Registrar. I see your hand. Let us allow Memorake to also ask so that then Registrar, you can come in and then provide some answers to the questions that we had. Thank you. Memorake.
Thank you, Chairperson. Acting Registrar, may you, over and above the question that you have asked, maybe further clarify. I'm not sure whether I'll be using the right terminology, the misconception that we have identified as we were doing some of the council functions where some managers do not necessarily pay their annual fees by virtue of being at the management positions with this misconception that they are not practicing directly. So maybe just to add on the clarification that you have done, perhaps maybe you should elaborate more on managers who are directly or indirectly involved with the practice also have an obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, Memorake. Acting Registrar, you can. Before you respond, Mr. Nzama. Okay. Acting Registrar, over to you.
Yes, Program Director.
Oh, no. Thank you for coming back. I said towards the end, we lost you. I don't know. We did not capture you quite well in terms of your question. We had to, while you were saying the deduction, the struggles and what, and then I heard the part where you said maybe we should look at how we can assist registrants to get their practice card. So I wanted to be sure that was that your presentation.
Yes, Program Director, but I think in fact the gist of my concern was emanates from the deduction that is done through the employer for the registrant to the council. In most cases, the practice card gets to be sent to the employer toward the end of the financial year, meaning the end of March, toward the beginning of April. By then, most of the registrants are not in possession of the practice card for let's say, for example, for 2024 to 2025, because of the delays between the employer and the council with regard to the bulk payment that has been done or the list that has been submitted to the council. So I was just indicating the concern, maybe that's how best we can assist the registrant so for them to get their practice card in time. With the fact that come end of March of every year, the practice cards are in the possession of the registrant. So that if the post gets to be advertised in the beginning of April or March or May, then the registrant would be in the position to apply or contest the post and also submit all the required documents as the adverts of the particular post. Because if the post gets to be advertised on the 1st or 2nd week of April, then the registrant are not in possession of the practice card. So that also affects them negatively in terms of applying for the particular post. So I was just trying to gauge maybe measures that can be put in place to close that gap, so that we know that all the registrants are in possession of their practice card come the 1st of April. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nzama. Over to you, Acting Registrar.
Thank you, the Program Director and Mr. Nzama for highlighting that issue, and his observation is correct. And it's one of the issues that we need to improve on. However, here are some of the challenges for us to not to issue practice card on time, or for the practice cards to reach the social service professionals on time. One is the issue of the late payment of annual fees. And part of the reasons for the late payment of annual fees, in particular through employers, It was in relation to the late publication of the regulations. At some point, we'll make the draft regulation or submission to the relevant authority, with the hope that they will be ready at a particular point in time before the new cycle of collecting the annual fee starts. So we at some point we delayed. We didn't even know as to what to communicate to the sector in terms of whether we must communicate the current annual fee payable or we wait by a month to ensure that the new regulations will be in place. Then we inform the sector to avoid the confusion. So that's part of the reasons why the issue of leading to the issue of the late payment. But the other part is just the general late payment by social service professionals. And they'll pay towards the end of month end. Now, it becomes what we call a rush hour towards end of March or the last month of March. Can you imagine if you are receiving payments from 10,000 people within a week or within a month, and also the issue of capacity for us to process those payments and allocate them accordingly, it creates a challenge. But it is not an excuse going forward. We want to improve. I see there's Dr. Nduli in our midst, the colleagues who are flighting the thanks very much. Now that's part of the reasons, but we received a briefing from the finance and admin manager and the registrations manager that they are committing to ensure, but because what we want to do, colleagues, we want to ensure that come April 2024, all eligible social service professionals are in possession of their practice card. And for us to do that is part of what we are doing today, engaging all the provinces. Then from there, the invoicing will take place on time. And we use, as I've indicated earlier on, we use January and March to process all the payments. And I said earlier on to say, I really want to see the reason why we will not issue a practice card on time for a practitioner who would have paid the annual fee on time. Now, coming to the handling of the practice card as soon as we process your payment and we are able to allocate it to the correct registrant, is that the law says we must post the practice card. And now recently we even email. Now here are the two challenges. At some point, we know the challenges, or currently we know the challenges of post office, that we try to use post office and some of the posts, they come back. The other challenge is that some of the practice cards, they come back because colleagues, they've changed their particulars, but they've not updated them on our system. So those practice cards, they come back to the council and it's cost on its own to issue a practice card, and it comes back, no one is claiming it. So at some point we thought maybe it will be easier for practice cards to reach registrants within the Provincial Department of Social Development on time if we send them to the provincial department offices for them to distribute same. Now, again, we experience a challenge. Some other offices, because the practice cards were not allocated in terms of regions, and also satellite offices and district offices. Now, the administration within DSD, some offices, by the way, is not all, others, they manage to distribute them accordingly. Now, they said this issue is creating an administrative nightmare for them as well. Council, you must go back to your old system of issuing the practice cards. But in other provinces, we're still trying to work with them directly, which for me, I think is the best way of doing it. Just a matter of us being coordinated where employers can give us an accurate list in terms of in which satellite office or district office or regional office is this particular registrant based, so that we send the practice card directly to that particular office for the office manager or supervisors there to distribute same. So we are still looking at all different angles in terms of how we can improve around that particular area. But the reality is that with post office, it's a challenge. At least now, colleagues, they do send us their emails. We are able to email their practice card, but the emailed one is common cause the manner that it comes out as a copy. Now, if you go to court, some magistrates, they will send you back. So, however, in a nutshell, program director and the colleagues that this is an area of which needs improvement. But the issue is that if the practice card can be ready on our side, then we struggle in terms of ensuring that it reaches the recipient on time. It at least to meet us halfway. But if on our side we delay for whatever reasons, our administrative challenges or the issues of late payment, it becomes a challenge. But we need to solve a particular problem, which is having a registrant practice card being ready. Then we struggle with the 50% of the problem as to how do we make sure that it reaches the registrants on time. So we will try to improve in that regard, but we also call for cooperation from the colleagues to also update their particulars on their registers. We will continue working with those employers who are willing to ensure that those practice cards that we issue to them, they reach the practitioners. So we'll continue exploring other methods, and I think management will sit and also look into that particular area. Now, the issue around the misconception of social work managers who others believe that they are not obliged to pay the annual fee, it depends. And the principle is that if your post requires your registration with council, you are obliged to pay the annual fee. If your post requires registration with council, you are obliged to pay the annual fee. Or sometimes employers, when they advertise posts, they forgot to put that provision that the requirements for registration with council. The second principle is that the nature of the work that you do, if the work that you do falls within the scope of practice of social work of a social worker, a social auxiliary worker, or a child and youth care worker, you are obliged firstly to register with us and pay the annual fee. Now, in terms of other colleagues who are social workers by profession or child and youth care workers or social auxiliary workers, but they are no longer performing the duties as far as the scope of practice is concerned, or their duties with their employer are different from the core duties of a social worker, but you still want to identify with the profession. We encourage you to remain registered and take advantage of the provisions of the regulations and apply for an exemption and qualify for the 60% what you call discount, if I were to put that way, or what you call exemption. So that is the issue, colleagues. But we want to as many people to remain registered with us. Hence, we emphasize the issue of the exemption for those who qualify for partial exemption. But in a nutshell, program director, everyone whose post requires registration with council, they are obliged to pay the annual fee. Thanks.
Thank you, Acting Registrar. We've got another comment coming from the chat box from Yolande van Rooyen. It reads as thus: I think it is crucial that the employers be informed by either SACSSP as well as social workers employed at the respective entities to ensure that everybody are aware of the new regulations and due date for payments. Communication in this regard is very important. I think that was a comment that the acting registrar had already touched base on, to say this is the purpose of the webinar is to do exactly what Yolanda is doing. But I'm of view that the acting can also further emphasize this importance of this webinars and the due date. But he has already done that in his presentation. Acting Registrar, do you have any point of emphasis on the note of communication and the due date?
Yeah, thanks, Program Director. As long as you give me the platform to speak, I will speak, Program Director. But the emphasis is that in addition to these webinars, we will be issuing a communication to the sector, several communication to the sector until such time that we get it right. But the good thing is that we need to be on the ground. We are on the ground from today until the 29th, so that we also get a sense of the issues that colleagues are facing. And Mr. Nzama raised one of the challenges that colleagues are facing in terms of we are paying, or our employers are paying, but we receive the practice cards on time. What other methods can you look into so that we improve in that particular area? And we've already allocated that responsibilities to the two respective managers, finance and admin and registrations, to come up with ideas on how we can solve that particular problem. So in addition to what we are doing, Program Director, you are part of the program, we are going to issue the communication or regular communication through our communication and public relations subdivision, because not everyone reads. And I'm informed that in actual fact, the regulations that we are talking to now have been posted on the website. So colleagues can also who visit our website on a regular basis, they can have access to the regulation. The disadvantage with the regulations is that the manner that legislation is written, sometimes it discourages people to read and even understand as to what is it that the message that the legislator is trying to send across. So that's why we're doing these webinars, and also to issue additional communication to simplify the understanding or to broaden the knowledge as far as these regulations are concerned. Thanks.
Registrar, Ms. Yolande, I saw your hand up. Can I give you the opportunity to present? Yolande?
Hi, I hope you will be able to hear me. My mic is not always very reliable.
Okay, we are hearing you now. You can
Wonderful.
proceed.
The reason why I was actually making the comment with regard to communication, the crucial element of that, on the management of the East London Social Work Forum. Mr. Hitler, we invited you last year or the year before to come and talk to us at the forum. We've got currently about 213 people on our forum, and I sent out the notification of today's webinar to our whole forum, and none is part of this discussion, which concerns me quite a lot, and worries me that it seems that we don't always read communications that we share with each other. And that's why I asked for the presentation to be sent through to me, because I would love to discuss it during our forum meetings, to also tell the social workers more about what was discussed today. But yes, the things are on the website and notifications are emailed out, but it seems that we tend not to listen. 42 people from Eastern Cape attend this is actually quite a shocking number for me. And I think most of them are from the council. So yeah, that's why I was saying that we need to talk and make it available to everybody as far as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. Acting Registrar, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to speak on Yolanda's concern or presentation that you just made to us, so that then we can then move from the item of question and answer session. Thank you. Over to you, Acting Registrar.
No, thanks, Rich. The program director. We will go to the Eastern Cape, and I think we've been there. I think on more than 3 occasions doing the code of ethics workshops. But based on the attendance today, the team management will take stock of the outcome of this session today and make an informed decision in terms of how we deal with the issue of the Eastern Cape in terms of attendance. But in addition to SSPs, one will expect employers to attend, because for quite a long time we've been talking to SSPs. I think it's about time that we also gravitate towards paying attention to the employers of social service professionals. For example, if one would have expected all the municipalities representatives in the Eastern Cape to attend the session, because that's where another bulk of social service professionals is based, in particular social workers. So management will take stock of today's session and make informed decision. Thanks.
Thank you, Acting Registrar. Thank you, Acting Registrar. I had muted myself. With that said, we will then now move to the item of resolutions and way forward. In a very nutshell, we have summarized the way forward for the webinar for Eastern Cape. As such, with regards to the attendance, management will go back and do a management plan that will be informed by other aspects to see how best we can communicate in Eastern Cape, because we have tried several times to go to Eastern Cape, and we are also concerned at the other sectors that are employing SSPs and did not attend the meeting. However, we will go back and come up with the best way. Then we are saying, where practice cards are concerned, we would encourage employers and SSPs to update their details on the register so that communication can flow between the parties. And we are further admitting that on our side, we will strive to improve on our systems on how best we can ensure that SSPs receive their practice card timelessly. And then the second way forward will be with regards to registering. We are saying our way forward from Eastern Cape's webinar is that everyone who is entitled to register and remain registered should pay the annual fee and comply to the regulations as provided for the SSPs. And then the last one, we are saying we need to start paying attention to employers as well, because we've been communicating to the SSPs themselves, and maybe it's time we direct our attention to them as well, so that then they can also be well informed about processes and prescripts that govern the SSPs in terms of the statute body being the council. With those 3 way forwards that we've come up, it's 4. If we take the first one that says we need to have another strategy on how we are going to ensure that communication reaches Eastern Cape as well. So with those said, we will go to the last item of vote of thanks. And I see on the agenda that the matter is given to members of the professional boards. We've got Mr. Nzama, unless there's a chairperson in the meeting. if I did not acknowledge the chairpersons of the professional boards, my apology to that regard. Mrs. Morake, you are in the meeting for the professional board for social work, and Ms. Tanzama for the professional board for child with care workers. If presidents are not in the meeting, I think I'm in order, acting registrar, by saying they can do the vote of thanks with the next remaining 5 minutes to the end of the session. Thank you. Ms. Morake.
Thank you so much, Program Director. My job is quite simple. Let me extend very sincere thanks on behalf of the Council, specifically to our distinguished guest, SSP from the Eastern Cape. Let me also acknowledge and thank the different senior managers from various entities, staff members, council members, members of the Professional Board for Social Work and Professional Board for CYC. Thank you so much for attending as well. SSP, your contributions in the form of questions and your participation on the charts is highly appreciated. Yolande, let me extend a special gratitude to you with respect to even volunteering further to say you will take this presentation further to the forum, which comprises of not less than 200 people. That is highly, highly appreciated. The team who has been working behind the scenes, the organizing team for these webinars, thank you so much. Your efforts do not go unnoticed. I know it comprises of the managers, comms, IT, and admin staff. Thank you so much for organizing this webinar and the others to come. Acting Registrar, your presentation, you heard several times that it's comprehensive indeed, and the information is very much valuable. I know it's not easy to present the Act and regulations and rules, and you did it with so much passion. Program Director, you really steered this ship very well. Thank you so much, and we commend you for facilitating this webinar. And in case I forgot any other person, apologies in advance. But thank you so much, and this actually brings me to the end of my task. Over to you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Ms. Murage. Can we have Ms. Tanzama from the Board of Child Youth Care Work?
Thank you, Program Director. I think from the Professional Board for Child and Care Workers, it's just to acknowledge the session and your effort for hearing the meeting, and also acknowledge the acting registrar for the detailed presentation, and also acknowledge the employers of child and care workers and social workers in various spectrum, especially in Eastern Cape, in their level of seniority, and also express our gratitude to the team that is behind this webinar for organizing such a platform where registrants are given a platform to interact with the office and also raise their concern and see how best we can map the way forward in terms of so thanks the registrant, both social workers and child care workers who attended today. We hope that the session close the gap in terms of the council and their registrant, and also acknowledge all the parties that are part and parcel, the admin staff from the council, the professional board for social workers and members, and the professional board for child and care workers members. And let us hope these platforms will continue in closing the gaps and maintaining the contact with our registrant. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Mr. Nzama, as well. Colleagues, SSPs, acting registrar, board members, and council members who might have happened to join the session. With all that has been said, with all the knowledge that has been imparted, with all the presentation and the issues that we've said, we are hoping to go far within the sector in terms of registering and ensuring that we remain registered. That brings us to the end of the session for today. Thank you and goodbye, Eastern Cape. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Miss Pedi, Miss Langa, Ms. Chabalala, Registration Secretary, kindly log off, colleagues. Tate Siklen Lofu, kindly log off. Miss Milimusuno, kindly log off. Miss Pizu, kindly log off. CYC WETD, kindly log off. We appreciate your attendance. Kindly log off. Miss Malum. Miss Malumbo.
Acting registrar, we still have people that unobata staff fell.
Yeah, no, the team, management team extended. I've sent a message in the WhatsApp group.
Oh, okay. No, naneke Sulenyana, but it's fine, I'm back.
Right. I see the CYC ETD. But it appears colleagues they've logged off. So How am I going to thank you for delivering the work if you are not here?
Okay. You know what? Or what I don't care what WhatsApp yeah, how no. But anyway, we'll talk to it. It's fine.
Which one?
The last issue on the program, it said
Oh.
members, not one member.
Yeah, no, you did it well.
Oh,
You did
okay.
it well. I care just to recognize both.
Okay. No, it's
Yeah.
fine. Hey. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Miss Mbuzo,
Yes, Chair.
how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Kandwali mpita chaka chako.
You are chairing this part.
I